An Israeli airstrike on a single residential block killed nearly 100 people on Tuesday, Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said, leaving rescuers scrambling for survivors as Israel pursued its offensives in Gaza and Lebanon. Israel's key ally and backer, the United States, called the strike, which killed a large number of children, horrifying. The bombing came with Israel facing an international backlash after its parliament voted overwhelmingly to ban UNRWA, the main United Nations aid agency working with Palestinians in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Palestinian rescuers and desperate family members gathered around the demolished five-story block in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza. A charred body with long hair hung from an upper-story window and bodies in blankets were lined up in the street as stunned relatives sought to identify loved ones. The number of martyrs in the massacre of the Abu Nasser family home in Beit Lahia has risen to 93 martyrs, and about 40 are still missing under the rubble. Gaza Civil Defense Agency spokesman Mahmoud Bassel told AFP. Israel's military said it was looking into the reports of the strike. It earlier reported its forces had killed 40 Hamas fighters, and the loss of 4 soldiers in Gaza. Women and children.
Only 5 or 6 people survived. Where are the Muslims? Where are the Arabs? Where is the world? Fear God. North Gaza is being completely annihilated.
The explosion happened at night and I first thought it was shelling, but when I went out after sunrise I saw people pulling bodies, limbs and the wounded from under the rubble, said Ravi Al-Shandigli, 30. Most of the victims are women and children, and people are trying to save the injured, but there are no hospitals or proper medical care, he told AFP. Washington expressed deep concern. This was a horrifying incident with a horrifying result, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller told reporters. We have reached out to the government of Israel to ask what happened here. Israel's military has been conducting a sweeping air and ground assault in northern Gaza since October 6, particularly around Jabalia, Beit Lahia and Beit Hanan, saying it aims to prevent Hamas regrouping. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have fled the area, more than 12 months into the war sparked by Hamas militants launching a bloody cross-border assault into Israel on October 7 last year. Israel's retaliatory offensive has killed at least 43,061 Palestinians in Gaza, most of them civilians, according to figures from the Hamas-run territory's health ministry, which the United Nations considers reliable, triggering warnings of a humanitarian catastrophe. International concerns mounted after the Israeli parliament voted overwhelmingly to ban UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Israel strictly controls all humanitarian aid shipments into Gaza, and UNRWA has provided essential aid, schooling and healthcare across the Palestinian territories and in the diaspora for more than 7 decades. Devastating consequences. There is a deep connection between the terrorist organization, Hamas, and UNRWA, and Israel cannot put up with it, lawmaker Yuli Edelstein said in Parliament as he presented the proposal. But several of Israel's Western allies, including the United States, voiced deep disquiet. Miller reiterated a warning to Israel that Washington could withhold military assistance without improvements in humanitarian aid into Gaza. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said London was gravely concerned, and the French Foreign Ministry said it very strongly regrets the law. Germany, a staunch defender of Israel's security, warned it would effectively make UNRWA's work in Gaza, the West Bank and East Jerusalem impossible. UN Chief Antonio Guterres said the Israeli law could have devastating consequences if implemented. In a letter he sent to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, seen by AFP, Guterres argued that under international law an occupying power must implement mechanisms for aiding the people living in that occupied territory. If Israel is not in a position to meet such needs, it has an obligation to allow and facilitate the activities of the United Nations, Guterres wrote. Israel's neighbor Jordan, which also hosts UNRWA offices, condemned the ban as a continuation of Israel's frantic efforts to assassinate the UN agency politically. Netanyahu said on social media that Israel was ready to continue providing aid to Gaza in a way that does not threaten Israel's security.
The house of the Abu Nasser family in Beit Lahia's project neighborhood was bombed. It's formed of 4 floors. There are tens of martyrs. Tens of displaced people were living in this house. The house was bombed without prior warning. As you can see, martyrs here and there with body parts hanging on the walls. The neighbours and everything in Beit Lahia, residents of Beit Lahia.